The following is a sponsored program paid for by First Alliance Credit Union. Welcome to Good Money Moves, featuring Jenna Taubel from First Alliance Credit Union and Andy Brownell. Here's Andy Brownell on Rochester's News Talk, 1340 KROC AM and 96.9 FM.
Welcome to Good Money Moves. I'm Andy Brownell, along with Jenna Taubel, the AVP of Marketing with First Alliance Credit Union. Good morning, or hello, Jenna.
Hello, Andy. How are you?
I'm doing well. Yourself?
Doing great. I have a guest with us for today's episode.
Fantastic.
Yes, I've got Brent Rempe, our new president and CEO of First Alliance Credit Union, here with us today. So, Brent, why don't you take a minute to just kind of share a little bit about yourself and your passion for credit unions?
Yeah, thank you, Jenna, and thank you, Andy, for having me today. My name is Brent Rempe, and moved to the greater Rochester area back in August with my family. Married my wife, Beth, and we have a 5-year-old son, Toby. We moved to Rochester specifically to work for First Alliance. Just this past Sunday, so around the 21st on the 21st of April, celebrated my 10-year anniversary in credit union space. And I love credit unions because of what we do for our members and our communities, and actually the culture we have on our team. A lot of our credit unions have within the teams on the credit union. It's just a really great movement to be part of.
All right. Well, welcome to the program, Brent. Last week, Jenna, we busted up myths about credit scores.
Yes.
And I imagine with Brent here today, I could guess what our topic will be, but I'm going to throw that at you, and you tell us what our Good Money Moves program will be about.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are revisiting what I think is maybe a very important, if not the most important topic, and that is credit unions. We're going to dig into some information like how credit unions came to be, what makes them truly different than banks, why you should really join one, and even talk through some misconceptions that I think a lot of people have about credit unions in general. And so it's just a credit union 101 today.
All right. We're going to bust some more myths too, I see. Okay.
Yes.
All right, Brent. Welcome again to the program.
Yeah, thank you, Andy.
Jenna mentioned the rich history of credit unions and the credit union movement. Maybe to start with, why do they exist?
Yeah, credit unions exist for our members. So every individual that banks at a credit union is what we call a member rather than a customer. They actually own a piece of the credit union, share value of a share. Goodness, it's been that kind of morning for me. So here at First Alliance, that's $5. Other credit unions, it might be $25. But every credit union member with that share has one voice in the credit union and setting the direction. So that part is really exciting, and that's very different. Democratizing finance is a really unique part of credit union space.
So almost like the old electric co-ops in a way.
Exactly.
With finance.
They're our cousins. Yep. So electric co-ops are our cousins. Food co-ops are our cousins, but with finance.
Interesting. Okay. So how does that make the credit union so different from a bank as far as financial institutions are concerned?
Yeah. So a lot of the difference comes from, like, for instance, banks are owned by shareholders. Well, credit unions are too, but every customer is a shareholder at a credit union. But banks typically owned by shareholders who are investors, and the investors form the board, set the direction of the bank, and really the whole idea of that common exploitative finance of it going back to the shareholders, like the people who own the banks. The profits get reinvested back to the shareholders. Well, on the credit union side, we're a community financial institution. Each member has a voice in selecting who is governing the credit union through our board of directors. The board of directors are members. So if you're not a member of the credit union, if you don't bank with us, if you're not doing business with us, you are not running the credit union. So they have a vested interest, our board, in the community.
So your boss is the members themselves.
Correct. Yes, correct. And then a
Exactly.
representative democracy. Yeah. So ultimately, my boss are our 20 some thousand members.
Selected
then-
by your members.
And then I have 7 board members who are selected by the members that are my ultimate, that ultimately guide me and, that I'm ultimately responsible and reporting to. Yes.
Okay. So when you mentioned that the electric co-ops are cousins of the credit union, I take it that the origin would be the Great Depression.
That's correct. So credit union started, Jenna, is it like 1913, 1912 was the first credit union in the United States?
Yes.
So times were tough. There was a recession in the late 1800s. And so out of some economic uncertainty, the credit union system was formed in North America, both in Canada and then here in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of credit unions, including First Alliance, got their start in the Great Depression. When you go to a bank or a credit union, typically it's when you need something.
Sure.
And so on the borrowing side, so you go to a bank or credit union when you need a loan. Back in the 1930s, banks were really not serving the average consumer. They were, if you could get a loan, or if you could, essentially pay for something yourself and you didn't need a loan, that's typically who the banks were lending to, people who they knew for a fact could repay the loan. Well, oftentimes folks got turned down, and that's the origin story of so many credit unions, including First Alliance. Banks were lending to the wealthy. The average working person did not have an avenue to make major purchases. And so oftentimes a group of coworkers came together to pool their money together and help someone purchase something they need.
Like a home or
like a home, a car, a refrigerator. Here at First Alliance, 7 firefighters. We were founded as Municipal Employees Credit Union in Rochester. 7 firefighters came together in 1933 to lend money to a teacher because they couldn't get a loan at a bank.
Mm-hmm.
I love that story. Going back to the idea that a group of people who had a problem found a way to resolve the problem and thereby help each other surmount some sort of obstacle.
Yeah, and that really plays into the ethos of credit unions, people helping people.
Yep.
And that's part of the core mission of the First Alliance Credit Union, correct?
Yeah, it gets down to it. That's our mission, vision, and values all relate to that concept, that ethos.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, back to the differences between the credit union and the bank. You mentioned you have a board of directors selected by the members.
That's correct. Some of the other difference. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say I guess if you're, does it take the banks are there to make a profit? Let's put it that way. They're a capitalist organization. I imagine that as a co-op, the profit motive isn't really a key here.
That's correct. While it's still important to be profitable just for the sustainability and growth purposes, we're organized as a not-for-profit financial cooperative, correct? So profit's not our driver, the community is.
Okay. How about the insurance of my accounts? I know that once again, out of the Great Depression, there became the idea of the FDIC to insure deposits in banks. Is there a similar mechanism for the credit unions?
There is. So our federal regulator, the National Credit Union Administration, or NCUA, has a fund just like the FDIC, and all deposits are insured up to $250,000, again, on par with what banks can offer with federal insurance.
Okay. And as far as membership, is it open to absolutely anybody to join? Can anybody just walk into a credit union and say, I want to be a member?
Yeah, so there are paths to membership. There are still some restrictive paths to membership, but I will guarantee this. There's a credit union for you For here at First Alliance, we have a 5-county field of membership. So anyone who lives, works, worships, or goes to school in Olmsted, Winona, Goodhue. Jenna, can you help me with the rest? Dodge. And Wabasha. No, Winona.
So basically, if you're adjacent to Olmsted County, most of the counties adjacent to us, you could be a member of First Alliance.
That's correct. So the 5 counties kind of adjacent to Olmsted, you can be a member of First Alliance.
Most of the southeastern corner of the state.
That's correct. But if you're not eligible for a membership at First Alliance, there is a credit union out there for everyone.
And so in its origins, First Alliance was exclusively city employees as it began, right? Starting with the firefighters. That's
correct. Firefighters, teachers, and any other municipal employees of Rochester is how we began. And there's still some credit unions out there that are serving its predominant employee group that it was started to serve. So similar to us, a lot of credit unions started to serve a group of coworkers. Around the 2000s, around 1998, I believe we had a Credit Union Access Act that went into law that allowed more and more people to become members of credit unions. And that's how we got the county-based common bond or field of membership. We call it a community charter. So we've been able to serve more community members since the early 2000s.
And have grown so quickly since, that's for sure.
We sure have.
All right, we're talking about credit unions, the history of the credit unions, history of First Alliance specifically, the advantages of a credit union. And we're with Brent Rempe, who is President and CEO of First Alliance Credit Union, along with Jenna Taubel. And we will return with more Good Money Moves in just a moment on News Talk 1340 KROC AM and 96.9 FM.
Good Money Moves continues in moments with Andy Brownell and Jenna Taubel from First Alliance Credit Union. This is News Talk 1340 KROC AM and 96.9 FM. We're talking Good Money Moves with Andy Brownell and Jenna Taubel from First Alliance Credit Union on Rochester's News Talk 1340 KROC AM and 96.9 FM.
Welcome back. It's Good Money Moves. I'm Andy Brownell, Jenna Taubel with First Alliance Credit Union, along with Brent Rempe, President and CEO of First Alliance. We're talking about credit unions today, to put it simply, and we spent the first segment talking about the history of the credit unions, what makes them different than banks, and I guess, Brent, why should someone consider opening an account at a credit union, becoming a member?
Yeah, so to me, the biggest thing is that relationship. You're at a credit union, you are a name and a person, and we get to know your story. So with that, there are a lot of benefits of knowing the member, us knowing a member, and that's being a locally based financial institution, which means I'm based in Greater Rochester. So when you bank at First Alliance, the leadership and our board of directors are here in Greater Rochester.
Invested in the community, as they say.
Very much so. Invested members of the community. We live, work, worship, and go to school in Greater Rochester. So we're an integral part of the community.
And you mentioned earlier that being a member gives me that vote. How does that process work as a member, selecting the board of directors?
Certainly. So we put out a call every year, and I believe that's in the fall, again, newer to First Alliance, but we'll put out a call to general membership, asking members if they want to learn more about becoming a board member. So any member can step up, raise their hand, and say, I'm interested. We do have an onboarding process, like we have an associate director program. So those interested in becoming board members can receive some training, kind of like an apprenticeship, if you will. They get some practice before they're actually voted on. And then each spring, we have our annual meeting where our members vote. So once you express interest, you work with a nominating committee, which is a committee at the board. And then once you typically spend a little bit of time as an associate director, then you get voted in as a director or a board member in the spring at our annual meeting.
And what kind of decisions does this board make that would impact a member of the credit union?
Yeah, so the board is a governing board. They have one employee, and that's me as CEO. But ultimately, they have a lot of oversight, first of all, on me and my decisions, but then also helping set the strategy for the credit union, making sure that we're going to be here for years to come and that are most effectively serving our community.
All right. And we previously covered as well that as a credit union, similar to a co-op, First Alliance is nonprofit as all other credit unions are. How is that an advantage for a member?
Yeah, so without we certainly again need that some profit for growth and sustainability purposes. We reinvest in our community, and some of that is seen through oftentimes lower rates on loans, higher rates on deposits, lower or no fees on certain products and services.
Mm-hmm.
We have more free ATMs. We have the largest free ATM network as a credit union system combined. We provide each other access. Like one of our core values as credit unions, similar to our electric cooperative cousins, is to cooperate among cooperatives. So we even like to serve each other's members through access to ATM networks. And some credit unions even participate in what we call shared branching, where you could walk into one credit union and get service, like access your account, make a deposit, take a withdrawal from an account at another credit union. That is available for some credit unions.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I know with First Alliance, you have invested a lot in technology.
Yes.
So some of the features that banks often brag about as far as online banking and those sorts of services, First Alliance has all of that as well, don't they?
Absolutely.
We certainly do, yeah.
And Jenna, you've bragged up, and I've used some of the features, including the My Money budgeting.
Yeah, we talk about that
Gizmo,
one
I
a
like
lot
to
on the
call
show.
it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, to Brent's point, throughout whatever kind of everything he's encapsulated, right? Everything we do is to ensure that our members are financially empowered. And we can do that because we are a credit union and we can focus all of our energy and our initiatives on ensuring that we're supporting our members holistically in their financial lives. So not just through things like loans and deposits, those are important pieces, but also through that financial literacy piece, which you can't have that without having tools to understand your own finances effectively.
All of this sounds like, fantastic benefits. But we also said earlier that we were going to bust the myths. Brent, what kind of misconceptions do people have about credit unions?
Yeah, so the first is, I can't join a credit union. I still think there's the word union often still has that because of our early history of being associated with employee groups. There's still that misconception. That maybe we're affiliated with unions or an employee group.
Sure.
As I said earlier, the truth is there's a credit union for everyone. There's a path to membership at some credit union for every individual.
Yeah, and I'm old enough to remember when it was. If you didn't work for that company that had the affiliated credit union, you could not join it. But as you pointed out, that changed. That's been more than 20 years since that changed.
That's correct.
Any other myths or misconceptions we should dispel?
Yeah, another myth is that accessing your money at a credit union might be hard. The truth is you can access your money anywhere, anytime with a credit union. I talked earlier about the ATM network and the access to the largest fee-free ATM network in the country through credit unions. And you and Jenna have talked about some of the digital access that you have at First Alliance.
And First Alliance has quite a few branches, in fact. How many do you have, Jenna, now?
Yeah, so we have currently 2 locations in Rochester, one on Commerce Drive, over by Costco. We've got one on 16th Street Southeast, a couple blocks east of the fairgrounds. And then we've got a location in Lake City. We have a location in Stewartville, and we also have a location in Byron. So we're pretty
Everywhere.
easily accessible. We're everywhere. And even if you don't live near a branch, again, having access to your accounts 24/7 through online and mobile banking, you can basically access your account anytime through our drive ups with our kiosks. And that's kind of a perk, I think, of banking with First Alliance, is that you don't have to necessarily wait until the branch is open to access your money or make a withdrawal or deposit a check or anything. Like, there's so many options now, and it's important to the credit union that we provide a number of avenues for people to manage their money, because everybody has a little bit different needs.
Sure. One of the misconceptions I had prior to doing this program with you, Jenna, was the ability. It concerned the ability of credit unions to extend loans to businesses, people who are looking for sizable capital investment. And I know from our conversations with members of your team that certainly is the case. That is, you guys at First Alliance are sized with an ability to even take on those types of lending.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we definitely can help, small businesses. Actually, we love helping entrepreneurs kind of get their feet under them and really grow their businesses, because they're local, right? And they contribute to our local economy, which helps our members. It helps the credit union. It helps that small business. So it's an environment that we definitely want to nurture and help grow as a credit union. But I think an important thing to kind of touch on there is that there are credit unions of all sizes. There are still some very small credit unions out there, and there are credit unions that are significantly larger even than First Alliance. And so if you are looking for a specific size credit union, right? If you feel more comfortable with one that has broader access or is a larger asset size for whatever reason, those are credit unions that are out there. And to Brent's point earlier, there is a credit union for everyone. And we mean that even on size. If you're someone who wants a smaller one that maybe is very, very localized or very attuned to the group that you belong to, those do still exist in different capacities.
Yeah. And the smaller size typically are the people that like, and trust. And if that's something you value, knowing, liking, and trusting who you're banking with, a smaller credit union or a more community-based credit union like First Alliance might be a financial institution for you.
Sure. It depends on your needs.
Exactly.
Are there any other myths or misconceptions we should clear up?
Yeah, Jenna alluded to the size. So there is a misconception that credit unions might be too small to help you. Again, credit unions of all sizes and fulfill all needs. We are modern financial institutions.
Mm-hmm.
And
all right.
I think just one more is credit unions are only for those financially needing or struggling. We're here to serve people across socio-demographic gamut. So we serve our community and all members of our community, and we try to do it with better rates and exceptional service.
Perfect. We'll take a quick break and we'll come back. We're talking more about credit unions, the advantages of, and the history of credit unions with Brent Rempe, the president and CEO of First Alliance Credit Union, along with Jenna Taubel. Back in a moment on News Talk 1340, KROC AM, and 96.9 FM with Good Money Moves.
Good Money Moves continues in moments with Andy Brownell and Jenna Taubel from First Alliance Credit Union. This is News Talk 1340, KROC AM and 96.9 FM. We're talking good money moves with Andy Brownell and Jenna Taubel from First Alliance Credit Union on Rochester's News Talk, 1340 KROC AM and 96.9 FM.
It's Good Money Moves. Jenna Taubel with First Alliance Credit Union and Brent Rempe, President and CEO of First Alliance Credit Union. And we've been talking about the, history and advantages of credit unions. Brent, is there anything else that our listeners should know about credit unions that we haven't already covered?
Well, we'd love to have you as members of First Alliance. Again, we're here to serve our community. We're locally based, and we really serve people from all tracks of life. Some of my favorite stories are the people we've helped through that financial literacy that Jenna talked about. Our staff have been able to help coach some of our members or potential members in raising their credit scores like 300 points and within a year.
Yeah.
We've also do what we call story-based lending. So we really try to listen to the story and determine if the loan makes sense. So want to express to the community, you are more than your credit score at First Alliance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Great information as always. And Jenna, I know you can point us in the right direction if we want to find out more about credit unions and the advantages of being a member of a credit union.
Yes, absolutely. I always encourage our listeners to visit our website, firstalliancecu.com. You can subscribe to our blog. We release new financial tips and advice there every week. You can listen to past episodes of this show at firstalliancecu.com/podcast or on krocnews.com. You can also subscribe to Good Money Moves on Apple, Google, and Spotify podcasts. And if you love our show, please take a moment to leave us a review on your favorite podcasting platform. And of course, I strongly encourage our listeners to reach out to our team at First Alliance Credit Union. They are here to help you start making good money moves today.
That is First Alliance Credit Union, federally insured by NCUA and an equal housing lender. Brent Rempe, CEO and President of First Alliance, great to have a chance to chat with you, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Andy. Thank you, Jenna.
Yeah.
All right, Jenna. Thank you. And we'll talk to you again next week with another episode of Good Money Moves on News Talk 1340 KROC AM and 96.9 FM.